Live via Zoom. A very good morning to you, Mr. Pityana. Thank you so much for making the time.
Good morning to you, Desiree, and your viewers.
Can you confirm your approach to the courts and what relief you're seeking?
Well, I've approached the courts to advance, to get a relief in the form of a declaratory order that the Prudential Authority, which is a section of the Reserve Bank, has acted unlawfully in that they considered my candidature for chairmanship outside of the prescribed regulations of the bank and concluded that I was not a fit and proper person, and that conduct is ultra-virus and has huge reputational implications for me, and it constitutes unreasonable, unfair, and inappropriate interference by the Reserve Bank in the affairs of a private bank.
Reports say that you are unhappy about a process that underwent, that former CEO Maria Ramos, you say, weaponized a false sexual harassment charge against you. What is the actual story here?
Well, the point is that the regulator in the central bank, that the Reserve Bank is, by injunction of the Constitution, is supposed to be an independent body that exercises its authority without fear, favor, or prejudice. And when you allow somebody who you have friendship, relationships of friendship and other basis for those relationships, as Maria Ramos has with several of the governors of the bank, that introduces an undue influence into processes. So in their informal process, the Reserve Bank is predicating its decision on information that has been shared with them by Maria Ramos, which I have not been afforded an opportunity to see, hear, challenge, and test, and present an alternative view. So without a doubt, it is a process that is unfair, it is prejudicial to me, and it is just totally unacceptable. It represents such undue influence as to compromise the independence of the Reserve Bank. So that's one of the allegations that I'm making, and I'm suggesting that it is important that we, as citizens of this country, we should rest peacefully at night knowing that an institution as important as the Reserve Bank, that has such great influence on our financial affairs, whether as individuals or as businesses, etc., can sleep peacefully at night knowing that they're doing their business objectively and they are free from influence from people that are not supposed to exercise influence over them.
One imagines that you would have already engaged the Prudential Authority on this matter before approaching the courts. Was there such an interaction and exchange?
I had made several overtures to the Reserve Bank to suggest that this matter is unlawful. The way they are dealing with it is unlawful. I pointed out where in the statute and the Constitution that is so. I've sought to meet with them and they've flatly refused to meet with me. And yet they were having several meetings with Maria Ramos, who had no status in the matter. I wrote through my lawyers to ask for a meeting in order to discuss and clarify issues. They declined to meet. They are hiding behind the idea that the informal process does not constitute a formal submission or nomination of my name. But the fact of the matter is that in a very disparaging and a negative fashion to my reputation and character, conversations I had about me, which lead to a decision that the Reserve Bank would object to my appointment. And the meaning of that is that I'm possibly not a fit and proper person to be a director of the bank, or that it is not in the public interest for me to serve on a bank. That certainly is an attack on my reputation, for which I fought very hard for and I worked very hard for. So if anybody is going to do that, they must do so through a due process, and I must have all the rights in law to challenge those kinds of decisions.
Tell us about the formal process. How far was it? And did you have some level of certainty that you were going to be appointed?
Well, What the law provides for is that the bank's board should consider candidates that it wishes to, that it thinks might be suitable to be a director or a chair of a board or a CEO or CFO, whatever the position is. Once it would have identified a person that it thinks is appropriate for that role, it then makes a formal submission to the Reserve Bank, whose role in that process is to make a determination whether that person is fit and proper, or that it is in the public interest or otherwise to have them appointed. What happened here is that the Reserve Bank inserted itself in determining the criteria and in demanding that it sees a short list of candidates before it gets a formal presentation, its role kicks in. And clearly, in doing so, they've acted outside of the statutory provisions of their role and therefore unlawfully.
So what's the way forward?
What this suggests is that it's a serious breach of governance, actually, because where it is the duty of the board to make these appointments, the Reserve Bank has usurped that from the board, and as shareholders would have no business blaming the board in demanding answers in the event that the board fails, because where the Reserve Bank interferes and determines who gets appointed, it has usurped that authority from the board. It's unacceptable. So we hope that the courts will apply its mind to this, and we think that we have put a compelling case to demonstrate the excesses of the Reserve Bank, and of course the attack on my reputation, which in a separate application I have every intention to file a defamation suit against the Reserve Bank for impugning my name in the manner that they have.
Let's thank you for speaking to us this morning as we watch how the story unfolds. Sipho Pityana is a respected business person, former president of Business Unity South Africa, talking to us there about, and former chairperson of Anglo Ashanti, talking to us about an approach he's made to the courts because the Prudential Authority, which lies under the South African Reserve Bank, has thwarted his chances of becoming the chairperson, the next chairperson of the financial institution. Of course, we're making our efforts to get through to ABSA, the South African Reserve Bank, and Maria Ramos just for their responses in this regard.